So the graphs below are going to be asking you to find various characteristics of it. It's the same graph, but there's a bunch of different questions being asked, and because I want to shade it, I just copied the graph a couple of times. So for part A, it's asking where is f of x less than 0? And what that means is where is your y value or values below the x-axis? Where are your y values negative? They're negative down here, below the x-axis. So for your graph, you're looking at, let me get a picture here of this. Down here, where I've got the red shading in, you're below the x-axis, and over here, you're below the x-axis. But when you give your answer in interval notation, you're reading it from left to right. So from left to right, what's the first x value that it starts going below, and what's the last x value that it starts going or stops going below. So in this case, from negative 1.5 to 0.4, parentheses on both, because we want to be strictly below and not on. The next place that it's below is here at 2.5, out this direction to infinity. We're not looking down. Looking down is a y value. You want to look left to right. So over here from 2.5 to infinity, we use the U symbol as the word or, 2.5 out to infinity. Right. For letter B, where is f of x greater than 0? Where are you above the x-axis? So those are where your y values are positive, so it would be here. That's where f of x is greater than 0. These are where your y values are positive. And then here. And again, we've got two pieces, so we're going to have two separate intervals. So starting at the very far left, which would be negative infinity, all the way over to negative 0.5. And again, parentheses here, 0.5, I'm sorry, that's negative 1.5. Negative 1.5 is on the axis, so we don't put a bracket. We don't want to be on it. We want to be above it, so we put the parenthesis. Negative infinity, any infinity symbol always has a parenthesis. So that takes care of the first piece. Now we want to catch this second piece. So we use the word U, or a symbol U. And then from 0.4 on the graph, we kind of estimate that value, all the way over to 2.5. For letter C, we want to find the x's where f of x is equal to 0. So this would be where you are on the x-axis. So let me see if I can get a value here. Let me get a different color. So I'm on the axis here, here, and here. Because those are like singleton points, we're just going to say at specifically x equals, this isn't an interval, these are just the specific x values, at negative 1.5, 0.4, and 2.5. That's when you're on the x-axis. Less than 0, below. Y greater than 0, that's where you're above. Okay. Next we look to see where is the function increasing and decreasing. Increasing means you're going uphill from left to right. So again, if I'm going to shade this first, starting the very far left, I'm going downhill until I get to this point right here, and then I start going uphill until I get to the top of the curve here, and then I start going downhill again. So the question is, what is that interval that I start here? You can make a little dashed line straight down, and I stop here. And again, you're looking at the x values. So when we talk about increasing or decreasing, we always use parentheses because a single point doesn't increase or decrease. So at negative 0.6 all the way over to 1.5, right, we're increasing, we're going uphill. So for the decreasing part, this is where I'm going downhill until I get to that point. Then I'm going uphill, and then all the way over here, I'm sliding back downhill again. So from left to right, you're looking at you're almost looking at a shading of it. If I think about, in what shading area is it? It's like all of this over here. That's in that area, that's where it's going downhill. So from negative infinity all the way over to that line, negative 0.6, that's where it's decreasing. And then it's decreasing again from 1.5. And now don't get caught up with the arrows going down. You're looking this direction. Like, what's this shaded region from 1.5 out to infinity? That's where your function is decreasing. The other questions, what's the domain and the range? The domain are your x values. Where do you start and where do you stop? Where does your function start and where does your function stop? So in looking at this, looking at your x-axis, this guy is continuously going out to negative infinity. Like, there's a value here at negative 1.5, there's a value at negative 1. There's going to be a value here at negative 2 because this guy is going to keep on going up. It's going to be clear way out here, and it's going to still keep on going up. So from negative infinity all the way over to, and it doesn't stop here at 2.5. I keep on going because like at the number x equals 3, there's going to be a value all the way down here that graph is going to eventually hit. At x equals 10, there's going to be a value all the way down here that graph is going to hit. So the domain is going from negative infinity to positive infinity. It's like you can't just box it in because it's going to keep on oozing out left and right. All right, so then I look at the range, the lowest y value. Again, don't get caught up here because, I can see you're like, well, at negative 2, but the thing is at negative 2, it oozes out of your box. I mean, it's going down lower than that, all the way down to negative infinity. And it doesn't stop here at this value because if I try to just box it in here, notice that arrow is going to keep on going up to infinity. The range is your y values. All right, the last thing that we're going to look at is evaluating and finding. It's actually just kind of like finding a point. This is, remember, f of x. So if there's a number in here, that number represents 1, the x value. And we're looking for what's the y part of that point. So we come over here to x equals 1 on our graph and go up to find the corresponding y value. This is the point 1, 2 on our graph. So f of 1 is just equal to the number 2. The other way of looking at this problem, so these are like separate problems here, f of x equals 2. The output is the y value. So now you're looking for x. So we go to the y-axis up to the number 2 now, slide back and find the corresponding x value. And again, it's 1. So our x has to be the number 1. So these are actually the same point. It's just a different way of asking the question. First they ask you, what's the y in this first problem? And then the second problem they're asking you, what's the x? So for this third one here, this is again f of x, and the x is 0. So we go over to the 0 on the x-axis, and then we have to go down to get to the y value of -1. So f of 0 equals -1, or the point 0, -1 is on the graph.